Brexit, a commonly used term for the United Kingdom's decision to withdraw from the European Union. The result of the referendum was announced on the morning of Friday the 24th of June 2016. 51.9% of people voted in favour of leaving the European Union and 48.1% voted in favour of remaining in the EU, which meant the UK would be leaving. Now I'm going to be speaking to a Labour supporter about what they think about Brexit. In the EU referendum, if you voted, did you vote to leave or remain in the EU?
To remain.
I am going to be speaking to a Conservative supporter.
I'll probably voted to leave, to be honest.
The referendum saw areas such as Gibraltar, Greater London, Northern Ireland and Scotland voted the majority to remain. However, Wales, the rest of England and a small proportion of Northern Ireland have voted the majority to leave.
Was this an easy decision for you, or were you unsure on what you wanted to vote?
It's really tough to say because all the things they said would happen just haven't, and the things they said didn't happen are happening, so it's just like, it's hard to say right now if I don't know if I made the right choice or not.
Fairly easy. I voted against it when we joined the EU originally, because I didn't think it was a good idea, but so much it got intertwined between the countries since that it seemed it was going to be more possible than anything else to come out.
In 2012, the then Prime Minister David Cameron rejected calls for a referendum on the UK's EU membership. However, after having considerable amounts of pressure put on him, announced that if in 2015 a Conservative government was re-elected, he would hold an in-out referendum of the EU membership before the end of 2017. On the 22nd of February 2016 in the House of Commons, David Cameron announced the date of the referendum would be the 23rd of June 2016. What were your initial thoughts when you first heard that a referendum to decide if the UK was going to remain or leave in the EU was going to be held?
I thought it would probably be a easy decision for most people, so I thought it would probably be all right. You know, everyone would think, oh no, it's probably the majority would think it was best to stay in.
To be honest, I think it was a long time coming. It was being questioned multiple times on many different occasions, and to have it come around now is not the best of ideas, but it was a wait and see to what the public wanted out of the UK.
What was your reaction to the referendum result?
To be honest, I wasn't really surprised. I was expecting this to happen because of the way it was like all represented.
I thought, oh my God, yeah, I just thought there was so much, you know, money and finance and everything that's involved amongst all the countries, that and half the countries around Europe seem to own half of our country anyways.
Prior to the vote, do you think people were given enough information to decide on how they wanted to vote?
They were given lots of information, but a lot of it was pure lies, to be true. I mean, they weren't given the true facts. A lot of people just thought to themselves, the main object in their head was immigration. They just thought, oh no, you know, we'll stop all this, and they thought everything would suddenly be rosy.
Definitely not. It was all clouded. They told a few lies here and there, and then they weren't very clear with the general public of what was going to happen. So I believe they could have handled everything completely different.
What are your opinions on the way the UK Prime Minister is handling Brexit?
I think she's doing pretty well, because she was against it, but she's obviously, you know, having to think, well, I've got to deal with it. And, you know, it's no good them saying, oh, well, you voted against it. I mean, that's the facts.
Badly, she is not doing a good job at all, in my opinion. I think she could do a lot better.
What was your opinion on David Cameron stepping down from UK Prime Minister after the vote?
Disgusted. Because he was all for, I'm going to stay here and support the country, whatever. And then he immediately turned tail and ran when it was going to get difficult.
It was a huge shame. Even though everybody said, oh, he's such a bad guy, he's not compared to Theresa May, because he actually knew what he was doing. He made the UK better than it was in a way. Even though people say, oh, he was this and that, I think we should have kept him.
On the 24th of June 2016, David Cameron announced that he would be resigning by October later that year. After a leadership contest, it was announced that Theresa May would be becoming Prime Minister. Do you think a second referendum should have been held?
Yes, because it was very close. There should have been, at the agreement when the first one, there should be some agreement that if it was only a very close percentage, then it wasn't enough and they had to have a second one.
Well, yeah, to see if people were going to change their minds, but I think not really. I think things are still going to stay the same, but yeah.
For a second referendum, which was signed by more than 4 million people, was set up. However, it was rejected by the government. Now I am going to be speaking to a Liberal Democrat supporter on what their opinions are on Brexit. How much of an impact will Brexit have on your life?
That's hard to say. Personally, I don't think a lot, but I work in an industry that, I'm a teacher of students who come from abroad. So it's possible that there will be less students from Europe, for example, to come and study with me.
I am going to be speaking to a Conservative supporter.
At the moment, not much of an impact, but who knows what will happen when it actually goes through. So obviously, we don't know what deals and that they're going to make.
So far, have the impacts of Brexit been as minor or major as you had expected?
When we first said that we were going to leave the EU, I thought it was going to be something major, but actually it hasn't been that bad.
I think if you look at the financial side and the political side, not so much really, not so major. But what worries me is there have been very big impacts in people's attitudes and behaviour.
Do you know anyone that Brexit has majorly affected?
Strangely, the people I would think has affected is people I know, British people who live and work abroad. Maybe they were thinking of coming back to Britain and now they're saying they won't.
What do you think of the way other European countries have reacted to the UK voting to leave?
I think they were shocked, and I think that might give them a little bit of a boost, because I think a lot of them want to be brave enough to leave like we were.
Well, I think considering the way the British government behave, they've been quite reasonable. I mean, I'm not surprised that sometimes there's strong words exchanged.
A greater number of young people voted to remain in the EU than older people and vice versa when voting to leave. Do you think that this is always going to be the case, or did this surprise you?
It surprised me a bit. You know, when you just listen to that statistic, you think, wow, older people really didn't maybe understand or appreciate what happens with the EU. And also I think the media misled people a lot. But I think the most important thing is that more older people actually voted. So a lot of young people just didn't vote.
And it did actually surprise me, because I thought the older people might have voted to stay, because it was a safer bet probably for them.
Does this result make you think the voting age should have been lowered to 16?
No, I do think it was the correct decision to have it at 18.
What are your opinions on the way the UK Prime Minister is handling Brexit so far, and do you agree or disagree with the decision she has made?
I'm quite disappointed with Theresa May. I mean, she's an intelligent woman, she's worked hard to get where she is, but she's taken a really aggressive stance, and she's just really trying to provoke some of the people she has to negotiate with.
How much of an impact do you think the way countries reacted will have on the UK when negotiating important things such as trade deals?
I think it may affect the US, people like that, they might want to not trade with us so much, but Europe, I don't think that's going to affect us at all that much.
After the EU referendum had been held and the result to leave had been announced, the UK experienced political and economic upsets. After the vote to leave the European Union, share prices of the 5 largest British banks fell around 21%. What do you think about the effects Brexit has had on the UK economy since the vote?
I think it's too early to say, honestly. I mean, at the moment we're still in the European Union. You know, we haven't actually left. Obviously there's some nervousness, people are worried. I know the French companies, especially financial, are really trying to get people to move from London to Paris.
I don't think it's had a massive effect. I don't know enough about all the other things to know how it has affected us, but it hasn't affected me that much.
When the London Stock Exchange opened on the morning of the 24th of June, the FTSE 100 fell from 6338.10 to 5806.13 in just 10 minutes. How do you feel about, and what are your opinions on the future of the UK post-Brexit?
I didn't vote to leave Europe, so I'm very sceptical at the moment. Hopefully they'll get a good deal and it'll be a good thing and it'll work out for the best.